Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Connor and I'm introducing another brand new series to the channel, and that is Thomas Series Rankings. And essentially what I'm doing is taking a season and ranking it by their episodes. So I'm ranking an episode, or the episodes from 1 to 26. And it's not your standard list going from worst to best. I'm going in chronological order of the episodes and then giving them a number of where I rank them. So, let's say if I have episode 13, um, it'll potentially be number 13 on the list, but it has a chance of being number 8, number 19, 20, etc. So that's essentially what I'm doing. And what better way to start off than with season 1? Frankly, I'm not the biggest fan of season 1. It's kind of a boring season. I've never really found interest in season 1. I just never really attached to it. I consider it the weakest season of the classic series, and it's not really the best thing ever. The classic series to me, it gets so much better later on. With season 1, it's mainly a world building season, but there's only a few moments of excitement and action, and that's really about it. So don't expect me to think highly of a great deal of these episodes. There are a few that I actually kind of enjoy. That's mainly maybe my top, my from 10 to maybe 6 are the ones that I kind of enjoy, and then 5 from 5 to 1 I actually kind of I actually enjoy. It's not all bad. From going back and rewatching season 1 in its entirety, it's not the worst thing ever. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to ranking. Now we're starting with the very first episode, Thomas Gets Tricked. Now this is it's an episode. I never really grew attached to it. It is my number 25 out of 26. I don't care for it at all. I know a lot of people, people love this episode. I'm not one of them. I never really found interest in the episode. I was probably a fan of it as a kid, but upon rewatching it, it kind of bored me, to be honest. I never really got the whole Thomas being attached to Gordon scene. I never really cared for the visuals. I just thought it was boring, and the action definitely got a whole lot better in later episodes, but this one was not really a strong start in my opinion. Now, the next episode is Edward Helps Out, and I will admit, this episode, for maybe the first 10 episodes, it was my number one place. It was my number one place for a good minute, but then it dropped down to number 11 for me after watching the back half of season 1, which I honestly think is a bit stronger than or it's definitely stronger than the first half. Edward Helps Out is definitely way better than Thomas Gets Tricked. I couldn't think of the episode name. It's definitely better. It's it's a decent episode. It was the best out of the first, maybe, let's see, definitely the best out of the first 10 episodes. But yeah, it's pretty good. I love the scene where Gordon is stuck on the hill and Edward pushes him. I really like that scene. I love the visual of Gordon pulling the cars and him just grumbling about it. I thought that was funny. But other than that, I don't really care for it. It's like I said, it's definitely way better than Thomas Gets Tricked. The next episode is going to be Come Out Henry. I didn't rank this one high. It's going to be a bit of a shocker to some people, but I mean, compared to the other episodes, some other episodes, I didn't really find this one enjoyable. I have it at number 19. It's definitely, I will admit, it was in my top 5, or maybe my top 10 for a minute. but it gradually made its way down as other episodes I found more enjoyable came before it. But, it wasn't I mean, it's alright. I know people meme it to death, and that's kinda funny. The memes are kinda funny, but upon rewatching it, I don't really find anything interesting about it. The joke with Sir Topham Hatt, what is it? Not pushing or pulling because my doctor has forbidden me to push. What the fuck was that? I have no idea. Like, my doctor has forbidden me to push. Like, I can't really do a Topham impression to save my life, but yeah, that joke was kind of funny. But other than that, I didn't really care for the episode. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. Now, Henry to the Rescue is next, and it's only a little higher. I placed it at my number 16. It's better. It's better than Come Out Henry. I love the visual with Henry being covered in like dirt and grime and cobwebs and all gross shit. But when he gets to the station, he's clean again and ruins the whole continuity of that. But in this episode, we do get some really cool visuals and like shots of angles that we haven't really gotten that much. We've only gotten them maybe like a few times. Like the shot with Gordon just broke down. I like that like angle. Like we don't really get that anymore. Like we haven't really gotten that angle past this episode. And I think it was the only time it was used. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, I just love some of the angles in this episode. Some of the shots are really, really nice. And outside of that, I don't really find anything else interesting about the episode. I know it's an iconic episode, but for me personally, I found it kind of boring. Now we get to A Big Day for Thomas, which is the next episode, and it is my number 26. I do not care for this episode one bit. It's definitely the worst out of the first batch of episodes, and for the fifth episode being the last place, it's not a good episode. The whole concept behind, I mean, with a sentient engine, they can feel. How Thomas couldn't feel the coaches not being coupled up to him, you'd think you'd be able to feel a train, right? As an engine, at least. I mean, with like an IRL locomotive, that can happen. That can 100% happen, though not very likely to happen. But with a sentient engine who can feel and have emotions, it's stupid. Granted, I know Thomas was very excited to take the coaches, but the whole thing with him not being able to feel the coaches not being coupled up to him is very stupid, and I do not care for it one bit. This episode can actually go to hell. I do not care for it. Now we go to Trouble for Thomas, and it's not that much higher. It's at my number 22. I don't really care for this episode. I did kind of like it at first, but after like ranking it, like putting other episodes before it and ranking it to where it is now, it definitely made sense because this is a boring episode. The visual with Thomas being pushed by the trucks is really cool. The visual on top of Gordon's Hill, what is it? The cars like pushing each other. I thought that was really neat. But outside of that, I don't really find any enjoyment out of it. And there's not really much to say about it. So, yeah. Now we go to Thomas Saves the Day. And admittedly, I had this ranked pretty high until the other episodes came along. I had this at my number 20. It's definitely a step up from the episodes before that I have in my that I have in my 20s spots. It's definitely a step up. It's better than Big Day for Thomas at least. But I know that's an iconic episode with the whole James crash and Thomas getting Annie and Clarabelle and him bringing the breakdown train and the classic O face or the whatever face that is technically called. I do not know. I don't really find the episode enjoyable. I don't know what it is. I just never really gravitated towards the episode upon rewatching it. I don't even know if I was really a big fan of it as a kid. And going back to it for this ranking, I never really kept my eyes on it. Like I said, it's definitely a step up from the like some previous episodes. But yeah, not really much to talk about here. I just kind of find it boring. Now we go to James Learns a Lesson, and I might be a bit biased here. James is my favorite character from the series, and admittedly, the early James episodes, like the first 3 James episodes, were in my top 10, like at least top 5. They're good. They're pretty good for what they are. I have James Learns a Lesson at number 13. Yeah, it's definitely a interesting episode to like sort of bring James in. It's definitely the weakest episode from the first 3 James episodes, at least with James's little arc. Don't really care for the whole Edward and James double heading thing. Some shots are really nice, but other than that, I don't really find it interesting. It's all right. It's definitely a step up from Henry to the Rescue, and it's definitely the best episode we've covered so far. But yeah, I just have other episodes to talk about. So, moving to Foolish Freight Cars. Definitely better. It's only a little bit better though. I have it at number 12. It's definitely a step up. I kind of enjoy the whole James taking the trucks. Granted, it is just a copy of what is it? Trouble for Thomas. It's the exact same episode with James taking trucks and getting to literally the same place. I don't really, again, with James Learns a Lesson. Did I say Foolish Freight Cars for number 12? I might have said James Learns a Lesson instead of Foolish Freight Cars, but we're on Foolish Freight Cars. I'll figure out what I'm editing. Forgive me. It is like past 5 o'clock. I just got off of work and I need sleep, but I want to get this episode out. So yeah. But Foolish Freight Cars is definitely it's an improvement. It's only a little step up, but other than that, I think it's decent for what it is. And now we get to A Proud Day for James, and I'm proud to say this is in my top 10. It's actually my number 8 episode of season 1. And this is the perfect James episode for rounding out a story arc. At least a mini story arc for a character. I mean, besides the obvious one, but we'll get to it. James is a very good character in this. I got hair in my mouth. How the fuck? Whatever. I really enjoy it. It's a very good episode. For some reason, I can't really remember what happens in it. Probably because I'm feeling groggy and, again, just got off of work. So, I just remember the episode being great. Very, very great, actually. I love it. Oh, you know what it is? It's him taking the express because of Gordon taking a different way. That's it. I love that aspect, and I love that they sort of bond more. Like, there's more interaction with James and Gordon, and them being civil towards each other, and I really, really enjoy it. Now we get to Thomas and the Conductor, or Thomas and the Guard, I believe for the UK. This episode is right behind Thomas Saves the Day. It's number 21. It's alright. I remember liking it a little bit more, but, after, like I said, I'm going to keep saying, after going back and, watching these and actually thinking about my ranking, it felt better to put, Thomas and the Conductor right behind Thomas Saves the Day, because I feel like they're on equal territory, with Thomas Saves the Day being a little bit better. But other than that, it was kind of bland. I know it's kind of like one of the weakest episodes of season 1. Like, usually people, I think, have it towards, like, the way bottom. But I feel like there's other episodes that, again, like, Thomas gets tricked, Trouble for Thomas, Bad Day for Thomas, that are just a lot worse. Now we go to Thomas Goes Fishing. And it's actually pretty, I mean, like, thinking about it now, from, like, 15 onwards, like, 15 going up to 14 and etc., they're actually pretty decent episodes. I have Thomas Goes Fishing at number 14. I like it. I love the concept of, Thomas needing water, so he goes to the river, and his driver gets a bucket. How all the water didn't leak out of the bucket before he put it in the tank was very interesting. And how they didn't notice a fish was in there. You'd think you'd see or feel something moving around in there, but then again, it is Thomas, and nothing is really realistic in here. So, I mean, yeah, I love the concept, and I love the dialogue between the conductor, or one of the crew members, and Sir Topham Hatt, looking into the tank. He's like, "Juicy fish," or something like that. I love it. It's so cool. But other than that, pretty decent episode. I mean, pretty good for what it is. But there are episodes I rank higher than it, like Proud Day for James, and, the James episodes in general. Now we're moving to Terrence the Tractor. I don't like this episode. I really don't care for Terrence. I think Terrence is definitely a bland character. He didn't really have a character to begin with. At least in my eyes, I didn't really bother with him. I had this episode at number 24. I couldn't tell you anything about the episode other than, Thomas meets a tractor, immediately starts, degrading the tractor or being an asshole to the tractor, and for some reason Terrence decides to save him after he gets stuck in snow. That's really it. Nothing really special. Kind of a piss poor way to introduce a new character. And same thing goes for the next episode, Thomas and Birdie's Great Race. I had this at number 23. Decently better than Terrence the Tractor, but again, I don't really like. I mean, Birdie's cool. I like Birdie. He's definitely a top tier road vehicle character. Along with like Trevor and Butch, but we'll get there when the seasons come. But I just didn't really care for the episode a whole lot. I thought it was well deserving of its number 23 spot, and again, couldn't really tell you a lot from the episode other than Thomas. No, wait, no, that was see, I was thinking of Thomas Goes Fishing. No, as soon as the episode starts is when they meet and race. But other than that, I don't really care for it. Now we get to a really good episode, Tenders and Turntables. I love this episode. It is number 5 on my list. I really, really enjoy it. I love the shots of the big engines at, I believe it's the yard next to the sheds. I love the visual of Henry and his big-ass tender with the tiny branch line coaches behind. I think it's a really cool visual. It's fun. It's kind of a funny visual. And I love Gordon, the wind blowing Gordon sort of off the turntable, which honestly to me is kind of a predecessor for what Gordon and the Famous Visitor will be. I love it. So good. And I love the visual of Gordon coming to watch James spin around on the turntable and get sick. This is the first time we've seen an engine really sick. until we get to Henry's episode, which we'll get to. But I just thought it was funny seeing James with a bright red coat with his face all green. That really wouldn't suit him now, would it? I think it's a fantastic episode. And yeah, now we go to another good episode. Trouble in the Shed. I actually had this ranked at number 6. It was in my top 5 for a good minute, but after thinking about it, number 6 seemed pretty good. Like, it seemed like a pretty fitting ranking. My top 5 is a little weird, I will admit. A episode everyone loves is not number 1 for me, and we'll get to it. But Trouble in the Shed is the episode that introduces Percy, and I redo that. Sorry, got some new additions to the collection. Percy's introduced, and I love Percy. He's really cute. I love him. He's a perfect introduction character. I love the way he was introduced. The workshop is something we don't really get to see, though I'm pretty convinced they just took Timoth's sheds or a shed or something and repurposed it for it. Sort of like I don't know. I'm trying to figure out words here. But yeah, I love this episode. I love the opening shot of zooming into Knapford Station, and then we don't really see Topham's office that much, let alone him interacting with another human character before we get to any engines. I love that. I love, if you want to call it character development to some degree, I just love the human interaction. I think human interaction is so crucial for Thomas, whether it be, drivers talking to firemen, or just like a farmer talking to Sir Topham Hatt, whatever. The human interaction is so important in Thomas, and I think it's something that's kind of overlooked in these classic seasons. But that's just me. This is a fantastic episode and great way to introduce Percy. Now we get to one episode in my top 3. Percy Runs Away. It is my number 3 spot. I adore this episode. This is an episode from season 1 I've always loved. I've always found this episode really fun. It's so neat. We don't really see a lot of engines running away. I mean, except for when they're runaways in, actual, train situations. But I love this episode. We don't really see a lot of Percy in danger. And the aspects of Percy kind of in danger will come later, in season 5 especially. But with this first episode, it's great. When Gordon, I love the shot of Gordon, coming, towards him, and then Percy closing his eyes, and I love that visual of him, like really, fastly spinning his wheels, and then going, like, going really fast, and somehow he goes all the way up Gordon's Hill without, feeling any stress or tiredness. He doesn't feel any, fatigue from it. And the visual of him, crashing into the pile of whatever it was. I think it was called a bank or something like that. It's a good episode. I love that visual, and I love when Gordon comes to help out Percy. We don't really get a good amount of Gordon and Percy interaction, which, honestly, I don't want to say bothers me, but they could do a lot more. They could have done a lot more with Percy and Gordon. But, other than that, good episode. I love it. Now we get to Henry's Special Cole. This is a weak episode. This is my number 18. I don't really care for it. This is the episode where we get the introduction to Henry's Welsh Cole, and I don't care for that concept. I mean, granted, I don't want to say I don't care for it. I think it's kind of a cool concept, but I don't want to say the execution was poor. I just don't really care for the episode. Seeing Topham in a different outfit was really cool. The episode I watched, like the version I watched, was the restored episode where they used the outtake of Henry in that siding, moving, just moving out of the siding, and then when Edward comes to collect the train, he's like back in the siding immediately, which I don't understand. But yeah, I couldn't really tell you anything about it. But then we get to the next episode. Flying Kipper is next, and this is the episode I mentioned that people have really, really high. People have this in their number one spot. A lot of people do. I'm gonna differ from the crowd. This is actually my number 2. And I expected this to be my number 1. But then it fell to number 2. It's still my top 3. It's still my top 5. It's a fucking fantastic and iconic episode, with Henry getting his new shape and taking the Flying Kipper, and just everything about the episode's iconic. The visuals are stunning, and I just love it so much. I think it's a perfect episode. But then, number 1 is also a perfect episode. But I mean, yeah, I won't talk about Flying Kipper too much. It's a great episode, and I understand why people enjoy it. The next episode is Whistles and Sneezes. Fantastic episode again. This is actually my number 7. I have it right behind Trouble in the Shed. I think it's a great episode. I love the 2-part story in it. I love how Gordon is sort of mocking Henry for his new shape, and then immediately his whistle, or he's also complaining about Henry's whistle, but when Henry and Edward are at a station, lo and behold, Gordon comes down the hill, and his whistle sounds like not a whistle. So Karma bit him right in the ass, which I thought was hilarious. I just love the episode. It's so good. And the second part to the episode where Henry is taking the coaches, and he pays those boys back after they throw the stones and break damn near all the windows on his coaches. Which, how many stones did they have, and how many did they throw at once for all of them to be broken like at the same time? Fantastic episode though. I really, really enjoy it. Yeah. Now we get to Thomas Breaks the Rule. No, we don't get to that episode yet. We're at Toby the Tram Engine. Good episode. It's in my top 5. It's actually my number 4 spot. Very good episode. I love Toby. He's such an amazing... The way Wilbert wrote him in the Railway series, he's a damn near perfect character, if not perfect. So good. So good. If I had to rank the classic lineup from 1 to 10, or maybe 1 to 11, Toby would be in my top 3 at least. He's so good. I love him to bits. This is the first episode that doesn't take place on Sodor, which is really neat. I love the whole Toby is really the only engine on the line with Henrietta, and I love the scene where it's Topham's, I believe, grandkid asking if Toby's electric, and Toby just gets pissed off immediately. I thought that was hilarious. So good. I love the episode, and I love Toby as a character. Now we get to Thomas Breaks the Rules. This episode fell. It's not a very highly ranked episode for me. I have it at my number 17. I just don't really find the episode that interesting. Granted, I love the idea. The idea is cool. Thomas coming down a branch line, but being stopped by a new policeman who gives him all these regulations he has to follow, and Thomas is driving and firing, defending him, saying he's allowed to do this, but then, he gets in trouble with the cops, and pretty much Topham has to break him free, but has Toby come along. I love that idea. But some of the parts weren't really executed well, I believe. I feel like some shots could have been done a lot better, but that's just me. I didn't really have this episode ranked, again, number 17. And that's really all I got to say about it. Now we get to James in a Mess. This is my number 1 episode. Fantastic episode. I love James, like I said. This episode is perfect. The interaction between James and Toby at the beginning, and all the way down to James crashing into, like, the visual of him crashing into the tar tankers is flawless. I love it. Granted, people say that there's a hand pushing him. There's no hand. Fantastic episode. I love it to bits. This wouldn't necessarily make my top 10 or 20 episodes of the series, but it's a perfect episode all around from season 1 at least. And I already told you my thoughts on season 1. I don't care for the season, but this is a good episode. And I love the banter between Toby and Percy when James is right there and they're just making fun of him. I love it. Fantastic episode. I don't have any complaints about it. Now we get to Gordon Takes a Dip. And it's good. It's decent. It's good. It's all right. It's my number 9 spot. It's right behind Proud Day for James in terms of the episode and story. I think it's really good. Pretty good stuff. The visual of Gordon just like going straight down into the bank or whatever it's called, the water. Very good, and I love the nighttime visuals in this episode. I love how Henry and James are pulling him out. The lights are all like on Gordon, and they're pulling him out with the breakdown train. I love that. And then the visual with Gordon in the shed with like shit all over his fucking buffer beam. We don't really see a lot of engines with, stuff all over their buffer beams until later seasons. So this was a nice change of pace. I really enjoy it. Now we get to Down the Mine. And it's a little bit of a step behind Gordon Takes a Dip. It's my number 10. Good episode for what it is. But honestly, the opening banter between Gordon and Thomas, I don't really care for. But everything else afterwards is really good. I love the scene where Thomas is in the yard and then, slowly puffs toward the mine. And the ending shot where Gordon is pulling Thomas out and the stuff is in front of the camera. I love that. I love that visual of them just like slowly exiting the mine. I think it's really cool. Though I will say Thomas is a dumbass for not following the sign. And I will admit, I'm not a fan of Thomas as a character. So me praising Thomas in an episode is going to be very rare for me. Granted, in these, if I ever do the hit era, or, when I do 6 and 7, or if I do the hit era, ranking episodes is going to be hard because a majority of the seasons have Thomas-centric episodes. And that's a good amount of the episodes. So we'll figure it out as we go along. And finally, we have Thomas and the Christmas party, Thomas's Christmas party, whatever it is. It's my number 15. It's alright. Again, like I said, 15 to 1 are like the good, like the decent to good episodes. This is like sort of the bottom of decent. It's not really an episode I want to go back to. I do like the visual of the actual Christmas party at Tim Michelle's, but everything else other than that, don't really care for. The only reason it's at number 15 is because it had to go somewhere. It's just kind of a there episode, and doesn't really stand out to me as much. There are some decent, lines and scenes and, shots or whatever in this episode, but really, it doesn't really do me anything. Other than the Christmas party part, I really enjoy. Plus, top, I'm standing on Lego, so I thought that was funny. With that being said, season 1 is ranked, and definitely a hard season to rank for, considering I find it boring. With these next seasons, it will get easier to rank, because from season 2 to season 7, love the seasons. Though season 2 I'm not as big of a fan of as the other seasons, I do really enjoy them. 3 and 4 are going to be easy and hard to rank. Like 3 to 5 are easy and hard to rank because I love the season so much. The bottom picks might be a little easy, so are the top picks, but everything else in the middle might not be easy. Other than that, I'm excited to do this. That is, if you want me to continue, I do plan on doing this for 2 to 7. But if you want me to rank other things like characters, or I could do a part 2 to my Wooden Railway worst models, or I can do best characters, at least that I like. Whatever you want, I'm open to any suggestions for content. And that is all I have for you. So thank you for watching, and stay tuned for season 2's ranking. So that's everything. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for season 2's ranking.